Hi everyone, thanks for checking out this video. So this is going to be a lesson about something called functions. And basically a function in Python is something that allows us to easily repeat a block of code whenever we want to. So if we have some block of code that we're using a lot and we're needing to repeat the code a lot, then we can instead put it in a function, and then rather than repeating the whole block of code every time, we can just call that function to execute that block of code. So like usual, I think the easiest way to explain this is just by showing you guys a simple example. So I'll show you guys like a simple example of how to do this basically. So to define our function, we're gonna use this Python keyword def. So we're gonna say def, and then the name of our function. So I'm gonna call it test function, and then parentheses, and then close parentheses, and then colon. And then if you press enter, it should indent automatically. But if it doesn't indent automatically, just do what we usually do and just press the tab key to get indented in under this function heading. And then from here, any code that we put in this block of code indented under this function definition, we'll be able to run all of this block of code basically just by calling this function. So just to show you guys an example, I'll just for now just print out a couple things. I'll print like this is our test function. I'll print just maybe test. Print maybe just another test, just basically just showing you guys that we can have like multiple lines of code in here, and then maybe I'll print like just a blank line to end it. So then once we define a function like that, then we can call this function basically just by saying test function parentheses. So in the past, if you guys have been noticing like these parentheses on like other tools we've been using in Python. So for example, like when we were using input before, these parentheses are a sign that we're dealing with a function basically. So yeah, basically just showing you guys here that instead of just using like the functions that Python has predefined for us, we can also define our own basically, and still you can tell it's a function because of these parentheses. So yeah, when we call the function like this, it will execute this block of code. So we can try running it, and then yeah. So, but importantly, we have to call it. If we had just run the code without actually calling the function, then it would have not done anything. Because even though we've defined the function up here, it only actually executes this code if we call the function like this, basically. But yeah, we can call it, and we can call it like more than once too, which is basically the point of the function, is that it's supposed to save us time. So that if we were only doing this block of code once, then it wouldn't really make sense to put it in a function, because then we could just write the block of code once and just that would just be it. But if we're calling this block of code and like using it multiple times, then it's a time saver to just, rather than writing the whole block of code again and again, to just put it in a function and then call the function whenever we need to use it. So yeah, this will just be an example showing you guys we can call the function more than once and have it like run like multiple times basically. So yeah, that was like one simple example. I'll show you guys a couple more examples, more things we can do with functions. So for example, that was just a function that we used to print out some text, but we can also make a function to do some math for us if we want to. So we can say def square number parentheses, and then yeah, this will be our function heading, and then whatever we define under this function heading indented in will be the block of code that will be the function. And for this one, we're going to use what's called a function parameter, meaning that we'll give our function a number that we want to square, and then have it square whatever number we give it, basically. So the way we use a parameter, it's called, is we inside of these parentheses say what the parameter is going to be called. So I'll just call it num for now. So I'll say square number, and we're going to use this parameter num, which will allow us to tell the function what number we want to work with here. And then we can say like result equals num to the second power. Remember, when we're putting something to a power in Python, it's not this, it's two of these star symbols, basically. And then we can say print the number squared is, and then print result. Okay, so now when we want to actually use this function, we again call it the same way, basically, just by saying square number and then parentheses. But then, in order to make use of this parameter, we're going to pass in whatever number we want squared. And this number that we're going to pass in is called the argument. So say like parameter num. This is called the parameter. And you know what? Sometimes people use these like kind of sloppily, like interchangeably, parameters and arguments. But yeah, technically this num here, this num like temporary variable is the parameter of the function, and then the actual number that we're passing in is the argument, basically the specific value of that parameter. So argument to and I'll say like the specific value of the parameter. Yeah, so we can just try it like this. And yeah, it takes in this 2 and basically assigns num to be 2, since that's what we specified, and then does this block of code accordingly using this temporary variable num to be 2. So it says num squared equals 4, so we get result equals 4, then print the num squared is, and then print result, which is 4. Okay, we can try it again with a different number if we want to. We can try it making this like 3. Whoops, sorry. 3. And then we should get 9, I think. Yeah. But now, let's say we wanted to do something something else for us. Let's say we want the function to allow us to actually get that result back and use it. So let's say we want to be able to do something where we say like x equals square number 3, and we want to be able to get that number squared back out into another variable, and then keep using it in the same way that we would say like x equals 3 squared. We want to be able to do that with our function so that we can keep using that number. So the way we've written it now, this actually will not work, and I'll just show you guys an example of it not working. So if we say like x equals square number, and we want to square 3, and then we print x, yeah, this will actually not work. The way we've written our function so far, this will not give us back the squared number to then store in another variable and then keep using. So I'll just show you guys an example of it not working. Yeah, so it's still printed out the result of the squaring of the number, but when we try to get that number back out into another variable x and then print x, when it's printing x, x is coming up as none, meaning x is like not defined right now, basically. So it didn't actually give us back that number 9 to store in x. So if you guys want to use a function that way to do what's called returning a value, to get some number out, or it doesn't even have to be a number, just to get something out of a function that you can then that you can then like store in a variable and keep using, you need to use what's called the return keyword. So it's basically it looks like this: return result. So if we use this return keyword, that tells us what we want to actually pull out of the function to store in a variable like this if we want to. So now when we say return result, that should work for us. So that should actually return some number out of the function to then store in X so that we can keep using it if we want to. So yeah, this should be good for now. And yeah, so now we can print out the square number is 9. So it's still, the print statement is still working. And then now it also returns this square number back into X so that we can keep using it if we want to. And then if we print out X, it prints out that X is in fact 9. So now it works, and now we're actually pulling out a result of this function that we can then store in a variable like this. So yeah, if you want to do that, you need this return statement down here to let the function know what you want to actually pull out of the function to keep using. Okay, so maybe I'll just keep going with another example. Yeah, I'll comment this out for now. So yeah, best way to keep explaining, keep practicing is just more examples, I think. So maybe I'll do another simple like math example where it'll just be adding numbers. So I'll say def add numbers, where we want to add this time 2 numbers. Or you know what? This time 3 numbers actually, just to show you guys that we can use like as many input parameters as we want to here. It doesn't have to only be one input parameter. We can have as many as we want to, and we can even make a function adding 3 numbers together if we want to. So we can call these input parameters A, B, and C. Whoops, C. And then colon, indent the next line. Remember, if it doesn't indent automatically, just go ahead and press the tab key to get it indented, and then whatever we do in this block of indented code, that will be the function. So now I'm just going to say like total equals A plus B plus C. And then rather than printing anything here, now I'm just going to return this result. So this function will not print anything like this, but it will return the total sum out of the function so we can keep using it if we want to. So I'm just going to say total equals A plus B plus C, and then return total. And then okay, so now just to show this working, I'll just say like result, making a variable to store the result of this function, and then add numbers 1, 3, and 5, and then print result, which should be 9, I think. Yeah, we can try running. And yeah, so it's, and remember this time it doesn't actually print anything in the function, but it does do this adding together of these 3 numbers, and then store them in this temporary function variable total, and then return total back into whatever new variable we want to define as the result of this function, and then we can do whatever we want with it. We can print it out if we want to, or we can keep doing like more math with it if we want to, basically. Okay, so that example is just showing you guys we can use more than one input parameter if we want to. So this case was having 3 input parameters, letting us enter 3 numbers to sum up. And okay, I think I'll do one more example to really like drive this point home. One more example. This one will be a little bit more complicated, just to show you guys that we can use these functions to do like actually somewhat complicated and useful things for us if we want to. So now we're going to do something, yeah, a little bit complicated, And, yeah, comment this out first. But yeah, so do you guys remember before we talked about lists, where a list can just be like a collection of things, basically, including like a collection of numbers, for example. So let's try to make a function to give us the average of a list of numbers. So that'll be the goal, and this is going to be a little bit more complicated than these simple examples I just showed you guys. But this will be an example of, yeah, something a little bit more complicated, but also a little bit more useful too. So showing you guys that we can do something complicated and also useful with what we've learned so far, and sort of like having everything we've done in these past like previous lessons culminating in actually doing something useful. And you know what? I'll also tell you guys, like, I've been purposely trying to like not use confusing sounding like computer science vocabulary, but if you guys hear this term algorithm spelled like yeah, like algorithm, whoops, sorry, I think I spelled it, yeah, I think there's not actually an I there. I think it's yeah, I think it's spelled like this. But yeah, an algorithm is like a fancy sounding term, I know, but basically all it means is just like a set of instructions for solving a problem in a way that generalizes to similar problems of the same form, basically. Maybe let's write this definition here, like a set of instructions for solving a problem that generalizes to similar problems of the same form. So this function that we're about to write to take the average of a list of numbers is going to be an example of an algorithm, because it's going to be a set of instructions for taking the average of a list of numbers that will generalize to basically any list of numbers, basically. It'll be a way of computing the average that will work not only for a specific list of specific numbers, but it'll be instructions that will work to compute the average for any list of numbers. So it's a set of instructions for solving the problem of finding an average of a list of numbers that generalizes to any list of numbers, basically. Okay, so let's try this. You know what? Maybe it might be fun for you guys, if anyone wants to, if you want to pause the video here and even like take a crack at this yourself. See if you can do this based on what we've learned so far in the past like several videos. Maybe take a crack if you can do this, like do this yourself. It doesn't require anything new. It's only going to require putting together the things that we've been doing up to this point in the course so far. So if anyone wants to, I invite you guys to like pause the video now and see if you can do this yourself. Okay, now, assuming you guys have paused and maybe tried it, now we'll all try it together. So I'm going to say def get average, and the input parameter here is going to be a list that we're gonna pass into the function. So like I said before, we can pass in like numbers if we want to, but we can also pass in like any kind of Python object. So we can pass in a list if we want to. So I'm going to say like get average, and I'll just call this like test list, or you know what? Maybe I'll try to name it a little bit better. I'll call it like input list, and then colon. Enter should indent itself, but if it doesn't, just go ahead and press the tab key to get it indented. And okay, so now it's the fun part where we actually think about how to solve this problem. And this is the fun part of computer science, I think, is actually like thinking about algorithms, thinking about ways to solve problems that are that require a bit of thought. You know what I mean? Like how can we solve this problem that will generalize to any list that we want to pass in? So basically, let's just say that we have like it's called like some list that will just be like a list of numbers. Okay, so now we can just think to ourselves, like, how do we actually write a set of instructions to take the average of all these numbers? So maybe the first thing we can do is think about just like summing them together. So first, before we get the average, let's just try to get the sum of all these numbers. So importantly, we don't know how many numbers we're going to need to take the sum of, but we can get the sum of them by using a for loop, like we talked about before. We can use a for loop to actually like iterate through the list and add up all the numbers like one by one, basically. So the way we can do that is we can start by saying like total sum equals 0. And then we can say, like with our for loops we were doing, we can say like for I in range 0. So basically I starting at 0, going up to the length of the input list. So hopefully you guys remember that. If you don't remember, you might want to just take a little review of our for loops. Basically, there's just a way of like iterating through the lists based on index. So if you don't remember, yeah, I might want to just review some of that. But yeah, this will allow us to use I as an index to iterate through all of the numbers in the list, no matter how many numbers we have. So if we had like a list of like 1,000 numbers, then this would still work okay to give us an index we can use to iterate through every index position in this list that we want to add together, basically. So then we can say like for that index, we'll just say like num equals the input list at index I, and then total sum equals total sum plus num. Okay, so at this point, this block of code is already a start, because this is a block of code that we can use to sum together all of these numbers in the list and then get that total sum into a variable that we've just called total sum, basically. But then we don't just want the total sum, we want the average. So the way we can get that is we can take the total sum divided by how many numbers there are. So we can basically say average equals total sum divided by, and then we need to know how many numbers there are, basically. And then luckily, Python just gives us an easy way to do that. We can just use this like length of the list, like the length of the list that we get by using this len function. That is how many elements are in the list. So that is how many numbers that we have. So basically the average is just the total sum divided by the length of the input list, because that's how many numbers we have. And then finally, just to finish off this function, we then want to return this average so that we can keep using it if we want to. Okay, so yeah, that's it. It's like I said, a little bit more complicated than the previous examples, but yeah, they're showing you guys something a little bit complicated, but also a little bit useful too. So this is an example, like I said, of an algorithm, because this get average function that we just wrote will work for any list of numbers, basically. Yeah, that's what we mean when we say that an algorithm like generalizes to problems of the same form. This will generalize to any list of numbers, not just this specific list of numbers, but any list of numbers we give it. This set of instructions will work to get the average of that list of numbers. But yeah, just to test it out, I'll just say like maybe I'll call this like now test list, and then I'll say like test average equals function name, and then the name of the list we want to pass in as our argument here. And then just to remind you guys, this doesn't print anything automatically. So if we just run it like that, it will still run and it'll still compute the average and then return that average into this test average variable, but we haven't done anything with it, so we haven't actually printed it out. So if we want to actually see what it is, we need to print whatever variable we're using to store the result, basically. So we can run like this and then get the average. And yeah, it looks like it worked. And again, I invite you guys to try this out with like any list of numbers you want to give it. Should work for any possible list of numbers. And yeah, so yeah, that's a pretty cool function that we wrote. And yeah, it's also a nice review because it really puts together like a lot of the stuff we've been doing over the past several videos. Okay, so yeah, that's basically all I have for you guys for functions. And yeah, at this point, if you guys have made it through these past 10 lessons, I would say that's like a reasonable introduction to the very basics of Python. I think at this point, if you've made it through these past 10 lessons, yeah, that's like a reasonable foundation to build off of. I'd say at that point, yeah, you're hopefully starting to get like a pretty solid understanding of at least the basics. And at this point, you should be able to continue learning on your own if you want to. So I think I might keep making more videos in this course. I might make some more like extra videos for you guys. But at this point, after these past 10 lessons, yeah, I think we could call that like the conclusion of like at least the very basics. You know what I mean? I might try to make some more like slightly more intermediate videos. There's still some more things we haven't covered yet. Yeah, more things to cover. But on the very basics, yeah, I think we can call this the conclusion of like the very basics. And I think at this point, you guys at least have a good enough foundation to continue learning Python, like on your own, if you decide to. Yeah, so that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with it through these 10 videos. I'll probably make some more videos, but yeah, again, this is we can call this like the conclusion of the basics at least. But yeah, for now, that's all I have for you guys. So thanks for watching, and any questions, just let me know in the comments. I'll try to answer them. And yeah, see you next time.